Well, this is Lady Rec and
King Grimlock.
And we have our wonderful guests here, Nick Roche. Is it Roche or Roche?
Which sounds nicer?
Roche sounds sexy.
There you
Yeah,
go.
okay.
My name is Nick Roche.
Okay. And then James Roberts. And do we have you here today?
I don't like that we're called Nick Roche and James Roberts, and you're called Lady Rec and you're called King Grimlock. What can our names be?
What do you want
Well,
them
that's
to
not
be?
my real name.
No, I guess so.
Reg and Rule.
Impactor Hand?
Yeah, that's,
Rag
I like
and
the
Rule.
order of that.
Yeah, Rec and Rule. I reckon that's
Rule
what works
better,
for me.
I
Like,
yeah.
he's Rec, I'm Rule. Yeah, there you go.
Cracks are starting to
That's
show already.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it?
I'm gonna-
It was good, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Nice. Yeah, cheers.
Thanks for coming.
No worries.
Yeah,
sure.
it was better than I thought that one. Yeah, good.
It's
We like to keep it short and brief. We find the guests get bored.
I'm dying here.
Okay. Well, James, start with you. Nick, we know about
Oh yeah.
because of Spotlight Cup and everything that's gone before. He burst onto the scene a few years ago, and he's old hat now. But you're the new one. You're the new boy to the Transformers universe. But before that becoming official,
Yeah.
of course, you wrote what is often described as the best Transformers novel. And having read all the, having read all the,
Not much competition, but thank you.
it's then having a faint praise. So
Yeah.
tell us a bit about Eugenesis.
Eugenesis, okay. So this was, it's almost 10 years since it came out actually, but I started work on it, well, it took me about 4 years to do, and it was done as a fan obviously, and this was sort of in the wilderness years. Beast Wars was around, but in terms of, G1, this was back when you didn't sort of have these reboots or these revisitings, of old continuities. It was all Beasts and beyond. So G1 was left. We'd had 8 issues in G2 and things at the UK comic, and there was essentially 10 years worth almost of stories and detail, and so rich ground for a novel length fanfic, which is what it is. So I mean, back in the day, Nick and I were both in sort of one of many Transformers clubs.
I like the word club.
Yeah, club didn't sound right, did it? Like societies, yeah.
Gang?
A secret gang.
Did you have an entrance to that?
Yeah.
It was a secret, so
We
we
were-
can't share it.
We were teenagers, there's a lot of handshaking going on then. But
Yeah. So various fanzines in this club, and there was sort of a prose-based one called Transtext, very clever. You see, when I did the suffix, fantastic. No, I'll explain it to you after. But in Transtext, there's a story called Invasion, which was a sort of a proto-Eugenesis. It wasn't complete, but it sort of had enough legs, I thought, to sustain like a novel-length narrative. We've used the word narrative. It's a proper roundtable discussion. So Transtext folded. I wanted to finish off what I'd started, and I didn't set out to do necessarily a novel-length thing, but like I said, the story was there, I thought. And so for 3 or 4 years, slaved away at that. It was good because there was an audience, Nick and others in the secret society, whatever we're going to call it. So there was a readership there, and because the size of it in the end, I thought, well, let's do it justice from a fan's perspective. Let's get it properly bound at least. Okay, I suppose pretensions of grandeur and the rest of it, but I mean, we got it looking nice. It was deliberately designed to look like a Penguin classic, not because not because I was delusional, but because it was incongruous, having a Transformers story, and not that, but a fan fiction, dressed up as a sort of Mark Twain or some grand statement of art. So that was the conceit. It was done and dusted, ready for sale. But not to make any money, just to recoup the costs of making it for the Transforce 2001, which is sort of I don't know whether it's a precursor of AA or sort of an earlier incarnation or what, but a convention, UK convention 2001. So I lugged them all up there, and they went very quickly. It was a limited print run because of costs, and sort of gratifyingly, it has a following, a modest one, but there's people out there who still say that they enjoyed it, and I think, because it's not canon, and it can't be canon. I mean, Death Set's in it for one thing, but because it's not canon, a lot of people, people sort of shy away from it. Certainly, people who don't know the G1 continuity. But I mean, since Records, I have found that there are more people willing to give it a go.
Including Andy Schmidt, our editor, sort of seemed keen to read it.
Yeah.
He was like, sort of, what, James did this novel? And I'm like, that's kind of what James did. So
He didn't even know that you were in it until we started saying something on the boards, and I was like, oh, I have to go check that out.
That's
Right. No, yes, I know, and he said he's printed it out and he's making his way through it, which is really great. Yeah. So Genesis lives on. I mean, it'd be fantastic if we could. I mean, it's 10 years next year. If there was some way of repackaging it again, just for distribution, not to make any money, but just to get it out there again. Because hopefully there's an audience for it.
It's something we discussed in the bar on Friday.
We did, yeah, exactly. Yes, so it's on record.
Announcement shall come.
Well,
with any luck.
For what it's worth, it's my favourite Transformers story ever. I don't know if people kind of like the stuff that I've written or worked on and stuff like that. I think that it might be worth checking out. It really is, and that sounds like a diss on kind of the wonderful stuff that Simon Furman has done, whatever. But the thing is, James could get away with doing the stuff that Simon couldn't, because Simon was working on a Hasbro comic and had Hasbro looking over him and Marvel, and so James had a lot more freedom, and no one could ever tell that story. But he built on Simon's foundations, but. Man, it's corker.
Well, yeah, and Nick's been fantastic. I mean, before Wreckers came about, there was other sort of things with IDW that was sort of near misses, if you like. But that's largely thanks to Nick sort of pimping it, really.
I'm just like, man, it's really bad. I kind of wish we did a separate podcast, because with him beside me, it's very hard to say this, but
you must try.
I'm going to have to do it anyway. I'm a massive fan of James's writing, and I just really wanted to read. I just want to read good Transformer comics. I don't care if I'm writing them or not. I just want to read good Transformer comics, and I think James is the best man for the job, and has been since day one. And I've really wanted to see him get work at IDW. I didn't imagine it'd be together on a joint project, but I'm so happy it was. And I'm lucky to like work.
I wanted to ask you about how that kind of came about, because I know that you were already working for IDW.
Yes.
How did you say, I've got this friend who...
I've said that to about 3 different editors over the years, and then the editor would leave, and then so it's kind of like, that's usually James Roberts quitting. So
you've been like trying to get him in for a while.
Well, that makes it sound like it's going to be like a crusade.
If networking is what that is to get
that's all. It's because it is so hard as a writer to kind of get that leg through the door, the foot up, both things, leg up, foot through the door. And I'm not a writer. And I just want, like I said, I've just kept any chance that came up that I knew that there might be looking for new ideas or new direction. I was like, this guy's good.
You're very good.
And the thing is, it's really hard, because essentially James comes from like a fanfic background. Well, we both do. So it's kind of there's so much fanfic out there. It's hard to sort of say why James is better than anyone else. It's he is, and it's also hard for like an editor to read New Genesis, because it's a novel, so it's not like a comic or whatever that you can kind of skip through, or even a short story. It's you got to be committed to it, and it's been tricky. But as far as like getting James on board for Wreckers or whatever, it was slightly through necessity or whatever. It was a late start on the development of Wreckers in comparison to the ongoing and the Bumblebee miniseries, which were going to be part of this big like Transformers relaunch. And I wanted this kind of like domino effect of the ongoing in November, Bumblebee in December, and then follow up with Wreckers in January. And that was cool, but they didn't sort of ask me to do Wreckers until like kind of June, and then they didn't even ask me for like kind of writing for quite a while after that, any script that is, and it just seemed to be it was like late before it even kind of. I mean, I'm responsible for making things late sometimes, but it wasn't my fault this time, So we were just trying to get it up and running, and I'd done like a lot of work developing it and trying to go it alone. But which is weird, and I should have just run with my gut instinct, because when Denton said you want to do a Wreckers series, I assumed like just drawing. I assumed like they had someone else. I said, no, we want you to write it. And I was like, no, I've got this friend. Maybe he could write it. I don't know if I could do it and stuff. And then foolishly, I went and kind of did it alone. And all along, I should have just gone, knocked on a Guernsey man's door, any Guernsey man's door. It just didn't matter.
They're just one massive island of Transformers fans.
Transformers fans and wannabe novelists. So it's the right place to go. So when it was kind of coming to the crunch, like Wreckers, it was kind of what we had was kind of we had like half of it almost roughly, and not an exact half. It wasn't like the first half was done. We needed the second half per se, but there was roughly kind of like half the work kind of needed to be done.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, with the setting and the characters. I mean, you've done the roll call.
I picked the team.
Picked the team, which was great, and the villain as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the direction and stuff. But when it came to the point, I was drawing it as well, so it was partially so scripts could kind of be underway while I'm drawing, and partially just because there were some ideas that needed kind of like a new UI on them, and whole new ideas and whole amazing ideas they were too. So
well, it's been good throughout. Really, it's been a real I know it's a hackneyed now, but it's really been collaborative, and we have been. The scripts would just bounce back and forth all the time. But it wasn't just the sort of dialogue on scripts. There was sort of the generation of ideas as well. It was really fruitful.
No, it really was, and really enjoyable as well. Like, and even when it was kind of hard going, it was kind of just nice. You knew you were just talking to the right guy, like, and all. That's what I felt anyway. You know, like the right pair of ears and the right head that could do something with what you were saying. And you know, when I got something back from James and stuff like that, I kind of knew how to approach it to kind of improve on it, or not improve on it. You know, it makes it sound like to outdo it. That's not what I mean.
No,
I mean, to make sure that we get the best out of it. And you know, I think we said it before as well about we're kind of like our own editors as well. You know, and kind of we're able to sort of talk freely to each other and say cut that out and stuff. You know, that's too much, or we need more of this, or you know, where's the beef? You know, that sort of stuff. So
yeah, definitely advantage of two people that have a writing team. Actually, you know, have got an extra critical friend.
Yeah, and critical friend. That's both those words are so important.
It's complete. It seems like to me it was a collaborative effort.
Absolutely, yeah. And I don't know if part of that is because again he's here, but I think I'm slightly influenced by James's writing anyway. I kind of never went into Transformers wanting to write, even though I kind of had a good idea for the characters and the idea, and I knew what I liked and what I think the fans would like. But it was kind of a lot of James like fan fiction writing and New Genesis as well is my sort of Transformers. And so when I got to write my own Transformers, like with the Cup. Initial Cup stories or whatever, there's definitely kind of a watered down version of like my watered down David Kay impression is like a watered down like James Roberts impression. So I think we kind of fit it. You know, we like the same stuff in the Transformers story.
Yeah,
so
exactly. That really helps us. I think we both got the same vision of what makes Transformers work for us, or where the potential is. And I'm not saying it's been untapped, but where there is room to go and where you can build on other stuff. And I think we like. Well, I suppose we're jumping ahead probably in where this conversation is going to go, but in Wreckers there is a lot of action, there's a lot of violence, and a lot of people jump to that straight away, and that's what they see when they look through the book. But as a counterpoise to that, there's a lot of sort of, as I said in the talk earlier, sort of domestic stuff really, in terms of the characters just rubbing along. And what we both like is whether it's explicit or implicit, but the suggestion that there's a big world that they operate in. I'm not talking about other races or other civilizations, but they're a civilization in their own right, and it's okay. They've been defined by war, but there's all the other sort of societal trappings as well. There
has to be that to have believable characters, and you believe that these characters would spend so long with each other. You know, I mean, a lot of time in Transformers, you've got characters who apparently been on the same team for like millions of years. You know, there's got to be. Some like fondness or warmth or some kind of spark, whether it's kind of like friction or tension that you kind of don't get that in some Transformer stories.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if a Transformer's ever declared love for another Transformer. I'm not saying that's something we do, but it's logical though, isn't it? Because I mean, if there's certainly enough hate in there.
No, and I think if you're going to distill it to one word, I think the Cup Springer thing is probably love. You know, it's like a fatherly love or whatever. You know, the love of like an old friend and I think Mike Costa might have touched on. I think there was a line about Ironhide saying he loved Prime. I think in the Ironhide.
And so that's
which is fantastic.
Stand in front of a sniper.
Exactly. You know, there's that, and you know the fact that like Springer kind of sent people to his doom, to their doom to rescue Cup. You know, and that's kind of it was all or nothing. Like, because Cup was his guy. You know, so it's kind of
and you need that. And that's the thing that resonates, I think, with well, speaking as fans as well. That's what resonates. Otherwise, it's just a series of scenarios moving from one to another. So
no, there is a bit of love in Wreckers. Even the love that Iron Fist has for the Wreckers as a concept. You know, I mean, that's like it's a fan love, and we've had a lot of that this weekend. But we know that it's a true love that burns deeply. So.
It is, and the sense of affection and concern. Iron Fist and Verity as well.
There was something great developing that's ever been written. So and we wrote it. So well done, James.
You just touched on at that point, saying you selected the team early on. What was the decision? Well, when did you make the decision to cull effectively the stereotypical Wreckers, your Rack and Ruin world?
It was kind of through discussions with the editors, really. It kind of, I think that they're not as well versed in kind of the Wreckerverse as like maybe the UK fans are, and as kind of like people from this neck of the woods, like the Roadbuster world, that line of Wreckers, the Wreckers that were in Stormbringer even, are kind of who I would have thought of as Wreckers. But they sort of said, well, there's no reason if you want to make up a new rota of Wreckers, you could. And they gave us some suggestions and. It didn't really work for me, so I kind of went the other way either. So I was like, well, look, if they're not keen on having like the Roadbuster and Whirl and kind of those guys, then maybe they'll be happy with these guys and try to put in fresh faces, and that was kind of it really, just kind of trawling through like online like tech spec kind of archives and things like that.
I've got a question actually.
Yeah,
I've asked you this question because I mean they're all, I think other people have mentioned they're sort of Eurocentric, aren't they?
Yeah, but not deliberately.
Well,
so,
no, thanks for answering it. Next question.
Someone asked me that the other night as well, and I was like, yeah, it was almost like this is the first time it kind of occurred to me, but not really. It was just kind of because I knew that those characters, because they're kind of almost like European exclusives in some way with Pyro and Iron Fist, who I think maybe were available at some stage, but in the US, but they're just kind of completely untouched by any sort of fiction. You know, they weren't going to have any ties, so we could kind of do what we want, and they were just kind of in the far end of like the sort of the guidebooks that I had. You know what I mean? And it's sort of like, well, you know, all these other characters seem to have an angle, or there seems to be an in for them somewhere else, or they just didn't fit record material. And because like around the time that like Iron Fist and Pyro and Rotorstorm were introduced, that the bios and tech specs were quite underwritten. That meant that like that means there's a whole like world of space for us to kind of dive in and pick them and kind of impose characteristics on without kind of contradicting the 3 lines or whatever that they had, you know. So.
And the same question then to the villain of the piece, but his underlings, the Predators.
Oh yeah.
Again, European exclusives for the most part. But was it purely because you could go, I can do what I want with these, I can give them something?
They also kind of looked like a unified force because they had the kind of the same similar colour schemes and the green visors and green eyes and stuff. And there's even mention of them in the profiles in the trade as being like a tribe, almost like a warrior tribe. The Skyquake kind of sees them as. And so
because the idea is there's more than the 4.
Exactly. Yeah, because I mean every kind of you see like in the first couple of issues, like whenever you see like one of Skyquake's gang or a Predator, that they've got the Predator missiles even if they never existed as Predator action figures, you know, or they've got like the green eyes or that sort of kind of similar facial shape because they're supposed to be part of this like big kind of group of Transformers. Vaguely look the same. So it was just that again. I needed an expendable and instant army of Decepticons, and you know the only kind of one of those, but the only 2 of those that you see died on screen are Snare and Stalker and Skyquake. There's the only 3. There are 3 Decepticons you see die, and but there's another 3 left of the named Predators, and then there's kind of like Fierce Swoop and Calicar and those guys, and they're, in my mind, they're Predators, you know. So they're
still out there,
and even the Track-Ons, you know, so you know who they are. So the Sky Scorpions,
phenomenally traumatized.
After the events of that,
we should make an interesting story.
Absolutely, yeah.
We'll skip. I want to skip to the end of Wreckers.
It's the best bit.
It was reading issue 5 made me go back and read the whole thing. Straight through.
I
read issue 5 and went, straight away. Before we did the review, I want to read all 5 again. When you're writing issue 5 and you have the final fight scene obviously opening up quite wonderfully with Guzzle being ripped in half.
The lion bar moment I've decided to call it. It's just like a lion bar when you pull it across a string.
Now we know your lion bar again.
Toffee Guzzle.
When you, obviously Springer gets his face ripped off, was your intention to kill him? And did Hasbro or IDW say it might not be a good idea to kill off one of your, your Cup, your Springer, the main guys?
The answer I think is in the trade in the Physitron's facts, which is I'm not saying read by the trade kids, by the trade kids. I'm saying, but they're all 3 of them were marked for death at various points. Not all together. The story wasn't going to end with Cup, Perceptor, and Springer dying, but at various, not even drafts. Like it's kind of like almost up to the wire that like one of those 3 was going to die, so we would have had the balls to do it. Like we wanted to do it. And we wanted to do it to maybe someone that maybe you didn't expect us to do it to. But
in a parallel universe, there's a Wreckers series where all the rookies survive and all the big names die.
I mean, that was something we were discussing up to the point of issues, like who is going to die. Because there was something you were just looking at as characters and you think, yes, and when you put the bio in for Pyro, and it's like, he's going to die, and he's going to die by being not an arsehole.
Yeah.
He's an arsehole.
I love that.
Well, yes, his arseholeness really sort of it became apparent in issue 4. Really, he was a pretty decent. Well, mind you, he wasn't. Yeah,
They're kind of
Verity
understandable at the
got
same
his nerves
time.
as
You
well.
know, I think.
But that was him. That's an honest reaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
And you don't expect it from an Autobot, especially one who says like I'm like Prime.
Well, that was
So,
absolutely the idea of that scene. Is that so often across all different media and sort of ranges, the Autobots are forever ready to make that noble sacrifice. It's always ready to put. And so let's invert that and have a situation where they're saying, "Hang on a minute, sorry, run it by me again." So like I said before, it would have been. There are longer versions of that sequence where they're sort of considering their fate and kicking against it a bit and saying, "Well, hang on, sorry, I didn't sign up for this." Particularly in Broad Iron Fist's case.
And it was good stuff. All the stuff that didn't make it as well, but. It was a pacing issue, I think, as well. It was kind of we're trying to kind of keep the ticking clock sort of thing going. So kind of as dramatic as it was, and we were really happy with the stuff that that was going on in the Aquatus chamber.
It didn't make much movement. In fact, that group spent the whole time in the chamber. Septus Gang are in there for the whole issue, which hopefully doesn't. If it's noticeable, it's not.
No, we should have got attention to it, really. But yeah, I mean, there's even versions where. Springer would live and Receptor and Cup would die, so it's kind of
Impactor was never going to die, was it?
But Impactor was never going to die, no, and I think all the records in one version or other were going to die. I think because there was even at the very beginning, kind of just before James came on, I think even Guzzle was more Iron Fisty. He had that kind of like record sort of fan thing going on. And then we decided to make him a little bit more gung-ho and then have the fascination with Cup that he has kind of be his kind of hook, and then kind of, because Iron Fist was kind of the harder to pin down, and so once we kind of figured out that like the fact that he's a fanboy for records and stuff
that was it, we ramped up his fanboy thing, and then we put the bullet in his...
It became the heart of the book, and and there you go, I mean, and that was that kind of that'll sort of show you about the development stage, that the cover of Records issue 1 was drawn before like a script was written, an outline was written. I just like Andy sort of said we need like a cover for the San Diego Comic Con. Who's going to be your records? We need a cover. So I drew the cover, and so Iron Fist doesn't have his scar on the cover for issue 1, and so it's and so and even on the trade, as far as I know, he doesn't have a scar because I didn't go back and draw it. So unless Chris Ryle is drawing on each single one, So but I kind of like the idea that people hand it to me at a convention, that I can just get like a pencil and ram it right through the front cover, and it goes, bullet hole, cigarette,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
You just touched on a very interesting relationship in the book, the Cup and Guzzle one, because that doesn't feel like it's going to end well.
Does it?
have you got something in mind for where that might go if you get given the opportunity?
I've got like different options just in case plan A or B.
Because I mean, Guzzle's gone off with Impactor now. The book ends. Guzzle goes off rather quickly repaired, admittedly.
He's
but he could have been carried on board in two pieces.
In essence, that's covered in his bio by the fact that he's already had his leg once.
Exactly.
But that whole relationship, we're sat there reading and reviewing it. There's all these little moments going, is he going to tell Cup? Is Cup going to find out what Springer did? Is Cup going to go...
Was Cup going to find out what Cup did,
It's a bit of a Russian doll thing. There's two layers to it.
We're still not sure whether or not he really does know or not, because there's enough doubt there. They're like, oh my gosh. So, that's good though. I'm glad that you guys did little nods and things like that, because it keeps us wondering.
It's cool that, it'd be great if we got to sort of pick it up, because it's kind of cool that it is as a nod, because it was going to be much more overt, it was going to be, and there just wasn't room for it really, but one of these days. Like I said, if nothing kind of comes to fruition in the next sort of year or 18 months, then it probably won't come to fruition, and in which case I can sort of spill the beans or whatever and say, here's what I would have done, so it's
interesting, because until quite late in the day, in terms of the drafts of issue 5, there was Guzzle and Cup. There was more to it than that. There was a further development there, and it was just too much to cram in. And already, I saw your talk today with Simon about putting a comic together, and Simon said often he'll get to page 18 of the script and realise he's got so much to cram in, and it was definitely like that with most of the records issues. Actually, we'd find that we've only got 3 pages left, and there's a lot more to tell. So issue 5 is really on one of it's really, really compressed, and yet, as you said the other day, I think there's sort of 3 splash pages in there.
Yeah, which is important, I think, when you kind of. It is important for the big battle issue as well. You know, the last stand of the records that. Especially with a villain as big and imposing as Overlord, and I think he kind of gets the splash pages. I think because he gets the first one, the bit where he gets all detonated, and then the half a splash, whatever, when he's on fire. So it's kind of. And Impactor gets to do it as well, isn't he? After he's double tapped or or single tapped as it is, but let's go for next.
Incapacitated.
I know.
That was dark.
Hey, I have to ask this because I've wondered. Which of you is more twisted?
There's a video doing the rounds, isn't there? I've
asked everybody else's opinion.
What's the consensus?
I can't remember. It's been a little while since I've asked that question, but I was dying to ask. Which one of you is more twisted?
See, I think people.
Let's do this mean thing to these characters.
Well, I don't know.
We both are of the opinion that in Transformers lore, if you really want to definitively kill somebody. These days at least it's got to be a spark shot or a brain shot, and so that's the torture thing. I mean, there's dark stuff in New Genesis, absolutely, but I also know that there are times when I suggest something for records, and Nick would say, okay, well let's take that up several notches, and it would become even darker.
Yeah, it's hard to know. I think the case against you or for you, as you said, it's pretty high with Eugenesis, and it's maybe not as many people are aware of it at the moment. If that comes into a stronger circulation by some means, I think I'm in the clear. But
I still think Spotlight Cup beating people to death without that.
I actually forgot. That's based on record. Oh yes.
Okay, so you've got that is very, very.
In the mainstream, you're for it. I'm right.
Well, I suppose I get lots about Badge in the mouth.
I think that there's that but then I complied and
there's a little lubricant which
as well. The thing about the cup thing, I just want to go back and sorry to hijack it in a records chat, but I can't remember if in the cup trade or even in the cup comic there's extras, but I don't know if it's explained that there's the page that I drew, and then I realised but I need more space for another scene, so I rejig stuff. But where Cup is in pickup truck mode and he goes to a cliff every morning after he's fought the zombies, and he tips all the heads into the water, and that's what he does. So they stop looking at him. So
we probably have a winner there.
And that wasn't like a cut by editorial. That was me saying I need more room for the science part in the middle where Springer talks with Perceptor and deals with that. But I kind of wish he's just driving around and he's tipping him in saying another morning. See you later on, guys. Stop staring at me. So
Well, I have to
awesome,
say, just based off what you both have said, I think you're both equally twisted. I'm sorry. Because I've read Eugenesis. There was a lot of twisting in there.
The reddies in Eugenesis, where the camp and they're playing stripped and painted red. Come on. A few heads in a lake in the morning, come on, compared to what James did in Eugenesis.
No, it was the whole going in while they were those that were injured and just knocking all of them out. That was oh! They did that and I was like, oh man.
It's a brutal world. And actually,
very brutal.
The G9 thing, I mean, it's you can imagine there's some pretty nasty stuff there.
There's stuff that we didn't do as well. I mean, I'm just thinking that now. I'm thinking about there's some really shocking stuff with Fortress Maximus that we didn't do, and it's I don't know if that's something for maybe another chat. I don't know, but there's.
You may as well spill the beans.
You guys did for him already, where he was.
Do you think so? The Fortress Maximus thing?
Yeah,
the head. Yeah. Well. Fortress Maximus was always going to have a tough time with it, obviously, and so the first time we saw him was always going to be a bit of a shock. And I'm just laughing about the first time we do see him, and he's just no limbs.
Actually, so just as a detour, but Nick and I live a long way apart from each other, and it was only after Issue 5 came out that we sort of met face to face
for the first time in 9 years.
And so Nick had his art there. In fact, we were sitting on the sofa there and you had it all in sequential order, so we were going through the issues. And we were, it was when we got to the page with Fort Max, the quadriplegic Fort Max, as a lockpick. I think it's the expression you've drawn on him. It's the bulbous optics and the terror behind the eyes.
But again, when I'm drawing it with that particular image, I was like, yeah, well, it's cool. I mean, he's been lobotomized. This is what he's going to look like. But I showed it to like my best mate back home as well. And he's like, "This, you're not going to get away with this. This is ridiculous." And it's, oh my god, like every time you turn a page. But the thing with Fortress Maximus, and then obviously the bit, just go back, the bit with the Autobot symbol stuffed in the mouth, like, and I just cracked up drawing that, like, it's brilliant. But originally, Scorponok was going to play a part in Garrus 9, and last time we saw him in IDW continuity, he was taken away by Ultra Magnus, because he had his brain fried by Swoop when he cut the cables and there's feedback or whatever. And so Scorponok had like a human in his head at that stage, Dante, Abraham Dante. And so when he was taken to Garrus 9, the idea was that Dante was going to be kind of incarcerated in like a little kind of habitation, but he was like kind of like vegetabilized somewhat, so he wasn't really there. So Scorponok's consciousness was still there, and he was able to extrapolate. Shockwave was going to take Scorponok's consciousness out of Dante and re-upload it into Scorponok's body, but Scorponok didn't have a head because like the human was the head. So then he needed a new head from somewhere. So he took Fortress Maximus's head and put his own consciousness in it. So you see Scorponok going around, but with Fortress Maximus's head and talking as Scorponok. And so the first time we see Fortress Maximus is just like riddled of bullet holes and just uses target practice with it as out his head. But I mean, Transform without his head is dime a dozen. Transform without his arms and legs. That's the roll. So and I kind of like the idea because they're both headmasters, and the idea they're both enemies, and so the idea of Scorponok taking Fortress Maximus's head and using it as his own is kind of twisted.
And there's a lot of speculation as to as to whether Formax later in the series would sort of come back with somehow the apparatus or the chamber would be
nope.
exactly.
Not in any of our drafts. He was used as a roof rack then in the last thing.
Last time you see him,
Iron Fist tagging along and stuff like that.
He's still got the same expression in his face.
Yeah, of course. You can't make any other expression.
It still locks. He's still trying. Yeah.
There you go.
I think you got the better end of the stick at this point.
Yeah, I think probably, yeah.
Yeah, I like to think he's out there, still hooked up, still, combination still going through his head.
Let's go repair his face. No, Ratchet, leave the face. I like the face.
Probably used to scare new recruits, actually. They'll bring him out. And, yeah. What was the question?
Which one is more twisted? Wow.
Actually, we were talking to Simon Furman earlier, and he said, having read Wreckers, enjoyed it massively, that he was very pleased that you guys had picked up from Maximum Dinobots, and it was more lodged in the Asian series, it seemed. That it was the all-power Megatron, and obviously the.
It was almost like half and half. I felt like it was kind of very much. I mean, Garrus 9 fell during All-Hit Megatron. That was the Grand Purge, as Skyquake calls it. So it kind of straddled both camps.
I mean, having Barrington there certainly connects it to the Asian.
Yeah, I guess so. And Garrus 9, I suppose, as well. The setting of it was quite Asian. But I mean. Yeah, it's just there was more kind of plot points that Simon kind of left because he'd written more, I suppose. So it was natural to kind of go back and kind of pillage those. Whereas All Hit Megatron was relatively kind of self-contained, So it was there wasn't kind of much apart from setting at the same time as all these things were going on.
And then we made reference to the basics of things, on the infiltration failure that when we see Megatron.
Oh yeah,
he's just cracked that. We need a sixth base.
Yeah.
It's been eluding for so long. Face is not enough. So I suppose it's better. It's got to put in both worlds. If you do want to sort of split it to before and after, it's got foot both times.
And because you highlighted there that you were going to include Scorponok, you did to a degree include Grimlock.
Yeah.
The Bone one would forgive me if I don't.
The Bone. He's called the Bone now.
He won't forgive me if I don't ask. Where's Grimlock?
Oh, we can't tell you though, because it's not.
Well, you can say no, mate.
Well, we can't.
It's just us.
This doesn't go out, right?
Okay.
Well, it's not for us to say, I guess, because as far as I know, I don't think we'll be the ones to kind of tell that story. I could be wrong with that, but
But there is something planned for Arking Grimlock to be.
Yeah, he's a huge character, right? He's a huge character, so he'll.
I mean, Simon won't let him go quietly for a start, So I mean, that's that. But I mean, if we were asked by IDW where's Grimlock, we'd have an answer for them, and that'd be our answer to you. But as it is, it's not.
It's taking him the next step.
And it's just kind of like leaving it kind of nicely ready. Because the thing is, we had to include him or mention of him because People knew he was there, you know. And that's why we had them kind of mention Shockwave sort of taking like his selected crew, his hand-picked crew on a spaceship, and that kind of covers a multitude of Decepticons that were there. It could go through like the Monster Raptor 6, or it could include Scorponok, you know, and so that kind of covers us, because like we obviously knew kind of who was there in Gareth's lineup, and we kind of knew that the fans would want to know as well, or at least would pick us up if we kind of showed ignorance in any way. So
early drafts, he had quite a big part in there. Certainly, he tipped the balance at the end, and as you said, you know, that was felt to be a bit
and both of them, Scorponok and Grimlock did, and for that reason, it was kind of they were the first ones to go. You know, so
it was too crowded. And then the question was what to do with Grimlock, really, because as you say, everyone knew he was there, and we were anxious actually that you know, we knew people would pick up on the fact that Cup and Guzzle were off to get him. That was that he was intimated, and we worried that, you know, when an empty cell was found, people would feel a bit cheated. I haven't heard that.
No, which is good. I think it's when we got
I don't think it was cheated.
If he was just missing, then but the fact that he basically said Overlord's broken him and he's gotten crazy, and we don't know where he is.
He's not going to be happy when he does show up.
I know there was one version we wrote. It never got particularly far, but there was one version where they came up on the cell and Cup, through the scent, he could smell that essentially he'd been stolen. He'd been teleported out there by something or somebody. But it's more open than that now, so it's it's.
I like the fact that it's a mystery though, because then our imaginations will wander.
Exactly. Your imagination is all the work for us.
Exactly. And then that way it leaves it open for whoever or
absolutely, and I think that's important too.
Yeah.
You know? So it's kind of rather than the sort of like, you know, block the next writer and come along to take.
It's a good setup. I mean, hey, I'd love to have a good setup like
that. I know, me too.
Well, there's the Grimlock Road and the Impact Ring Guzzle. The two big.
And you've still got Cup and Springer.
And like, you know, I think that their stories, from my point of view, intertwined as well, because they, you know, Cup doesn't know and all this stuff, and they're kind of in love with each other. Not even a bromance, but just that kind of like fatherly fit, sort of like there's a lot of affection between them. I'd really like that to be explored, you know. So it's kind of, I was really happy that we got to write like the scene in issue 1, just with kind of in Springer walking along, just talking with each other, you know, just saying like, you know, you're thinking about him, aren't you? You know, it's kind of says a lot. That kind of Cup kind of
intuits.
He's on Springer's wavelength, and he knows kind of what Springer goes through when a new bunch of records are recruited, you know. Cup's been there too, so it's kind of, I'm really glad that we managed to get that little moment in.
Well, and there is even a thread with Prowl. Is still kind of in the line time as well.
Strength with
that made us happy, having Prowl in there.
Yeah.
I bet. It made us very, very happy too.
It's nice to know Prowl's still an arsehole.
Yeah. Well, you know, is he? He is. You wouldn't invite him to your party. You wouldn't invite him to your house warming.
No.
He's not there to socialise.
Yeah.
Well, last question I want to ask about records anyway is, what is the Roadbuster affair?
That's unreal.
You know, I love that. I think the Red. It's again, you know, whatever you want it to be.
There wasn't anything, because I mean, people were taking, is that why he isn't in records? Did he do something so
absolutely could have happened like millions of years ago, you know, and it could have been.
It could have been the thing that got him into the records.
Or when he went rogue or something, you know. So
there's in Bullets.
What is Bullets, James?
Well, Nick, Bullets is a new story.
Where can I get this trade and the story?
Well, the trade.
All good comic book suppliers.
Oh yeah, really. This is the last stand of the records trade.
Yeah, have you heard of it?
I'm aware of its existence. And it's due out the first week of September. Am I right?
That's the one.
That's great work, James. Thanks. Back to you.
Bullets is no. I mean, there's a new short, as has been said. There's a new short story in the trade, a prequel to Last Stand of the Wreckers, which are all your favourite characters, and more besides. And because it's prose, you know, and this is one of the benefits, you know, there's various tangents you can go off, and then various interior monologues that explore different things, and the fate or the whereabouts of the other wreckers is touched upon.
Oh, excellent.
Yes.
So,
nice.
What's the future hold? I mean, Nick, I read somewhere that you went to see a fortune teller and was told the number 13 is going to be exceptionally important in your future.
Yeah, you don't believe everything I write on this. No, well, you know, I think, hey? Well, no, I'm doing Transformers issue 13, I assume that's what you're talking about.
Yes,
and so that'll be out, I don't know, it's on issue 10, so it'll be out in about 3 months' time.
Yeah,
So, just in time for Christmas. So that'll be a stocking filler, and that's a hot rod one shot. So.
And you get to mess around with hot rod.
Yeah, I fool around with a rod. It's gonna be great. So
don't tell the rod that.
Oh well, who's the rod?
Not the bone, someone else.
It's it's the rod and the bone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jeepers.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's it. I'm doing some covers for the ongoing as well. I'm happily enough to be in relatively constant contact with IW about wanting to talk to me and or James, or both me and James, about doing some new stuff. So they're keen to get us kind of moving towards something. It's just, and even they said themselves that they wish that they'd found something to do kind of sooner than now as well. So that's kind of cool.
Because at SDCC they said you would be working on something together. That's what they definitely hinted at.
They did say that.
But also in the past, Andy said that he's working with you on something that Andy's wanted to work on for a while. Can you tell us if that is or is not a Blue Streak miniseries?
Yeah, okay, yeah, it isn't. It isn't. There you go.
Goodness.
But it's it's a funny time really. There's a lot of, I've used the phrase already, not here, but there's a lot of plate spinning really, and we're both very fortunate in that we do have the era of IDW and vice versa. We feel that we're sort of part of that gang. And there's lots of ideas being kicked around at the moment. And,
I hope some of them come to fruition, because it's just best will in the world on both sides, that they want us to do something. But things change, and I mean,
I think they've been pleased that records have been sort of critically well received,
and I hope the sales will do well. And I never really cared about sales before I've worked on a series, it's kind of like for the spotlights and the one-offs or whatever, it's like, I just wanted nice feedback on the message boards, but I kind of realised how important sales are for, being asked back to do more, so it's kind of, I really hope that that the critical feedback and maybe even kind of the slowish word of mouth and stuff, and so people, I can't do auto assembly without having read records, or leaving it having read records, and that's kind of cool. So hopefully that'll translate into sales for the trade and more work for either or both of us.
And the fact that you guys have crammed the trade with a vast amount of additional material.
It wasn't just us to cram; it was IDW that let it be crammed.
That was really good of them, because I don't know how much more we'll see. Well, I don't know. These days, you've got every page counts, and it does. I think the days of 20 extra pages, stick what you want in there.
I don't know if
that's economical anymore, really. So,
as far as extra pages we could include without the price being price rising, and even at that, I think maybe policy might be changing with IDW about maybe what extras go in apart from cover galleries or whatever, So it could be the last stand of the record is extras. Yeah,
so,
that good.
So,
thanks.
I mean, talking to James on Friday, the fact that the most recent trades, the ongoing and the Bumblebee one, have literally just got cover galleries.
Yeah.
And Wreckers, which we say got the critical acclaim, has everything.
Yeah.
And was it intentional to not put the bios in that were included in the single issues to make us all have to keep our single issues?
No one's making anyone do anything. But it was genuinely, we want to sell comics, and every incentive that we can get to sort of sell some comics, and it's not like gratuitous. There's some really good stuff, obviously in the bios, And I kind of went on record early on by saying if you get the comics, you won't get the same extras in the trade. But no one's forcing people to buy them. You're not missing anything. You're missing some good stuff, but your enjoyment of Last Stand isn't going to be diminished by missing out on Bullets, brilliant as it is, and the Snare and Overlord profiles that were in the book that weren't in the comics and vice versa. So,
but to a degree, the Pyro bio.
Yeah,
it's almost key because you understand.
I know.
It's quite weird.
I guess so. Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder how it would have kind of gone. How it would have gone down without it. But
well, I thought that.
They're good on the
that's covered in Bullets as well. You can read. You can survive on the trade alone, or you can survive on the.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But the terrible, completist in me, wants everything in it. But like I said, you couldn't really win really, because we did say at the outset that it was a way of saying, look, you get a bit more bang for your buck if you get the issues. And
well, I think it's really smart that you guys did that, because like you said, you guys want to see it successful too, and it does sell comics. Having those little extra things in there.
Think like
I'm glad that you guys did that.
And
because it's just good business.
Well, that's what it is, and I'm sorry that it kind of comes down to it, because it's kind of the first time that I've ever kind of used my business head like that, and kind of because it wasn't meant to upset people at all. And the thing is, we're trying to sort of make people happy, because I don't think there's any other Transformer comics or many other comics where you get like extra material in the single issues, you know.
I don't know why they aren't doing it already, because that would make me want to buy more comics.
I mean, part of the reason is also economic, that we were willing to do it for free. James, Josh and myself kind of did that for free, and we do it again for free as well, you know. But I guess maybe not, creators don't all have the time to do it either, you know. It's just that we barely had the time to do it. I think that's why there was a gap of issue 2, and then, you know, there's problems after that. But like,
I know it's our screening fetish tendencies.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we love a Transformers comic, you know, that we didn't work on to have that sort of kind of background material, you know. And I think that we were clever. Well, I say we, because the profiles were James's, right? The ones that are in the single issues are James's, and I wrote the ones in the trade. But we're careful enough to not. I was going to say something amazing there, and I completely blanked.
Well, I think you said the other day, that was amazing.
That was amazing.
That was really amazing.
I'm going to get it back in a second. We were careful not to. No, screw it, it's gone. It's actually look, it's Sunday evening of a convention. I'm not having an apology.
I tell you what, though, it's nice that people, in a sense, it's nice that people miss them. You know, if like,
I remember what I was going to say.
Go on.
we were careful. Yeah, sorry. We were careful not to kind of cul-de-sac the characters with it. You know, it wasn't like Overlord was born such a day. These are all things that he definitely did, and this is what he likes. This is the flavour of cake that he enjoys, and sort of have that written in stone. They're more kind of like character appraisals, weren't they? It wasn't like he can punch like 3 times harder than like, which would
we have a punch scale.
Yeah. You know? And so because I think that was one of the fears of the editors, that we were going to sort of like write some of these characters into a corner for other writers by sort of saying, well, this was his exact history. So I think that the clever thing that James did was that was the point. Go on, sorry.
No, I like that. That was getting good actually. No, it was good fun. And Rung is. I'd happily write a whole series where Rung just has a variety of patients,
just judges
coming through, and
the Rung files,
and the Rung
that would
files.
Be awesome.
And of course, he turns into a stepladder. That'd be.
I like the X-Files, the Rung files.
The Rung files.
That's cool.
Yeah. So no, it's nice that people. It's nice that people. Were entertained by them, and they add a bit of colour and detail to
the impact of one. Mentioning a certain freelance peacekeeping agent.
But not by name, whoever it is.
Whoever that
be. You spoiled it in your interview downstairs.
No
one heard it. It was cool. It was fine.
No, it was good fun, and I think the Ladybird book reference was as far as one could possibly go without.
The lowest one we could possibly go.
That was the sound of the barrel being we'll never go there again.
Please turn over the page. Beep. That was that noise as well. So,
Is there any chance we're going to get any more from the drill instructor, whose name I can't remember?
Dipstick. Yeah, I don't know. He didn't die, so Dipstick and Rung together at last. So that's the sitcom we've all been waiting for.
Dipstick was a Roche creation.
Yeah, Dipstick.
So much fun. Andy liked Dipstick, didn't he?
Andy said he was his favourite character in the first issue. Dipstick was.
Rightly, I think that because he jumped in 2 pages, he just jumped out at you.
Well, that's because he was swearing like so badly. I mean, I guess we did the talk earlier on, and we mentioned some of the things that we had to cut out. The Dipstick said, but the Dipstick's character hook was that he just swears a lot. So, and that has asked that some of that be removed, which is fair enough, because he was calling people like a piston-licking clutch muncher. Yeah, slag gobbler and things like that, and so I said, you can't do this.
I think you can't sit down on a little pen badge, can you?
No, we can do that.
I think so, I want to see a T-shirt with that next year.
That's a hell of a motto,
isn't it? Yeah. But every time he opened his mouth, he was swearing and I can't remember the rest of it, but he would say something like in a Transformers sweary, and that was his hook. He was just angry and swearing, and they were trying to sort of like.
He needs to be serious.
I think maybe he does. I even like the look of him as well, like kind of a little German helmet that he's got as well, and the fact that he turns into like Noddy's car or something, which is actually true. But there's another bit that the folks at home wouldn't have seen. We were talking about earlier on about Rotor Storm's line to Overlord.
Yes. Because Rotor Storm being a Rotor Storm, and he deals with awkward situations by being a smartass. And yeah, originally when he crashed into the pit, and his opening line to Overlord was, we hear you've got a severe case of penal dysfunction, which we didn't even put in the script because that's just not going to fly, is it?
But then, it would have been good. But then thinking about the Rotostorm thing then as well, and just thinking about how he first died, I'm reminded of something when we were using like the orbital bouncing technology, which was next ultimately, that the wreckers were going to like sort of like kind of basically go through the front door with their ship and stuff like that. That's how they were going to, that's writing, huh? And that's how they were going to, it was wreckers, I figured I could get away with it. They were going to sort of like basically attack through the front way, and the ship is on a collision course then, into the front gate, and Overlord goes, tells Stalker to activate an orbital bounce on the entire like sort of east wing where all the Autobot prisoners are kept, and he transports all of them straight into the direction of the oncoming spaceship, so the wreckers just kill every single Autobot prisoner by trying to sort of like liberate the place and stuff, and that would have been a really cool moment to have had if we were using transporter technology. Overlord sort of kills every good guy that was ever there in the first place anyway.
I was pleased that we did actually get to kill
Twisted.
all the
Twisted.
Actually,
both of them.
Actually, going back to Twisted, that was quite, having all the arguably, or ostensibly the sole purpose for the mission to rescue the Autobot prisoners. And even the prison guards who had been imprisoned as well, and they're just like killed by the wrecked spaceship straight away. It's something which no one's really, people have picked up on it, no one's commented on it, but deliberately in the epilogue we didn't have Prowl ask how many prisoners they brought back. He asks about the data slug. He asks if the wreckers.
He's got his priorities straight.
Priorities. Oh my gosh.
Every Autobot is expendable.
Yeah. I feel like those last few pages of Prowl and Magnus is good.
I always wanted to just have two Transformers essentially having a discussion over a desk. The sort of philosophy being that all the really key decisions, probably going to take place two people having a conversation somewhere.
And it's likely to be those two as well.
At the moment with Prime Pen out of the picture for sure. The Autobots are in their hands pretty much, So.
Prime's sitting in a corner feeling sorry for himself.
What feel sorry for? He's been through a lot, man.
4 million years of war, and he just can't take it anymore.
He just wants a face.
Borrow one from Uncle.
Yeah.
Borehole. Is it an insult? Is it his name?
It's his name. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
We've been discussed that later.
Yeah, but it's up to you. But I mean, it's not a definitive answer. If you want it to be an insult, you can. But Borehole is again a brilliant like Transformer swear that we got through the censors. But if Hasbro had seen it as a Transformer swear, they obviously saw it as a name. You see, so.
But Hasbro let Alpha Q through.
Yeah.
Where was this?
Let's come on now, Alpha Q. Borehole. Yeah, Borehole and Kickoff and the issue one.
Yeah, and congratulations for being the reason that Action Masters are now selling again.
I got stung for them myself this weekend. So it's only fair, I guess, isn't it? So yeah.
So anything you guys want to say to the listening and watching audience?
Massive thank you, obviously. People have been incredible about this. The amount of like fan support that's been online from the like all the signatures and banners and even kind of it's been incredible. Like really touching as well, like genuinely, and people. It's the first time really we've experienced the face-to-face kind of thing this weekend, and that's been, and people with no bullshit are sort of just saying such nice things to you, and you can tell they mean it, and that's. I hope that they realise how much it means to us that it went down well.
Because
so
we did get the fear every issue.
Absolutely.
We never took it for granted that the next issue would be well received.
We figured we were allowed one dud, and we figured that each issue was going to be it, and we were like, look, this is it, it's cool, and each issue. That we thought issue 1 came out and said next issue is we figured out the weak points in it and said this is what they're going to jump on, and luckily they didn't, and we seem to get away with it every issue, and each issue seemingly kind of seemed to get better review than the last, or it felt that way anyway, or at least didn't kind of dip in any of the star ratings, so it was huge. And I've seen like the fan fiction and the fan art on DeviantArt that's kind of sprung up. It's incredible, it's kind of. It's
inspired a whole new generation.
Well, this is going to sound a little bit sort of biased, but you don't kind of see that with many other kind of Transformer series so far. Like, it's kind of, and I'm hopefully allowed to be proud about that, So
so you should. You have produced probably the most critically acclaimed series for a long time, and most well received by the true fans for a very long time.
The fans made it, and it was great, and I really hope that and they seem to be spreading the word. About it and getting like non-Transformers readers and non-comic readers buying it, and that's brilliant as well, because we hope the idea is that with anything I write, and I'm sure James is the same, that it's story first and Transformers or comics second, you know, and so hopefully the story is what has legs.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what we'll end up doing next, singly or collaboratively, but you know, yeah, just to have done records and
oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and that feels like an achievement. And actually, you know, it wasn't just. Of course, it wasn't just the two of us, but you know, there was there was essentially a dirty dozen.
I think we had the same amount of creators as records when it came down to it.
Yeah.
Once, like we had like Wacky on inks and Guido on pencils and Joanna filling in colours and Josh obviously, and then
we had Andy and Declan and Carlos as
Yeah.
well. And actually, we were given a lot of freedom editorially. You know, we were they sort of wound us up and sort of set us off, and you know, they told us what we needed. They told us what we needed to know when needed, but they let us breathe as well. So
yeah, we were lucky. We were very grateful to them. Yeah.
See, that I want to ask probably the most crappiest question.
What is that?
Which record you most like?
Oh well, yeah, well, that's something I have.
I feel like I'm interviewing as an 8-year-old, but
well, I was trying to figure it out that if like we're trying to assign characteristics to the various people who were kind of like working on at various stages, like, and Andrew Griffith came on as well, like, and the kind of. So I don't know. Does that make like kind of, if I'm Springer, does that make James Impactor because he kind of came on board, you know when he was least expected, you know, that sort of way, you know? So,
as well,
and plus all that Shallow Graves back in Guernsey, you know. So it's you know,
obviously Iron Fist.
Yeah, we probably both are.
Fanboy thing in there.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Although
Totally
I think maybe I'm Pyro, to be honest, because I think I'm the man who's it and stuff like that. But given a chance, I'll run a mile. Like, you know what I mean? So I haven't got what it takes when it comes to the crunch in any form of life at all. So
that's a great point to end this.
So in addition to that, I actually have a listener question.
Oh, really?
For you guys.
Caller?
No, I actually tweeted about it last night because I knew that I would be doing this, so I actually prepared just a little bit in advance, and it's coming from Barricade 64.
Josh.
Yeah. Well, anybody that's following my Twitter, so he asks, can you ask Richards?
That's us.
Yep. How they know this is great. You guys know what we're already calling you. How they felt when they learned Pyro and Iron Fist would be used by the club as well that year.
Just really surprised, you know. I think they were really surprised. I was talking to Pete Sinclair, who works for Fun Publishing. Like he's one of the big wigs over. And because I do some work for BotCon, I did double punch artwork and stuff this year, and the cover for the comic. And he was like, "Can't believe you're doing this. Can't believe you're doing it." Like, you know, it's like, what are the chances, you know? So, but there's no sort of like, they can't do that, you know, because they're very different characters. You know, I haven't read the Fun Pub stuff yet because I haven't done my comps yet, but I will. Yeah. And obviously, so I don't kind of know what their deal is over there. But it's gonna be different. Iron Fist isn't, I'm sure, isn't the squeeing fanboy in Fun Pub, and I'm pretty sure Pyro isn't the sort of the
it's Pyro Ignatius.
Oh, that's right, I did hear that.
That's right, so comfortably distant from.
I'm pretty sure,
absolutely different.
Yeah, Pyro Ignatius Spark, But cool, it's cool that there's a new Pyro toy out there. I'm very excited about that. And I don't know if they got plans for an Iron Fist, but man, imagine they did. Cheapers, that would be great. Yeah. So that would be really cool. Yeah.
It's only taken 25 years to get a Straxus, so.
Yeah. So see, 20 for Impactor and Guzzle, but Impactor would be great. Surely, he's been around long enough now that and the extra boost, and I know that there's people in Hasbro really enjoy records, kind of like as fans and stuff, So. I mean, that's all it takes, to be honest. It's kind of like, it seems that a little bit of fan whimsy sometimes lets characters like Jaxus or Straxus be released as Darkman, and Hasbro are great for that at the moment, even like with the Ratchet figure that's got like Help Us on the knuckle plate from the old Marvel run, so the fact that there's people there picking up on stuff like that, so you never know. I'd love to see a Last Stand nod in an action figure, it'd be great.
Yeah, just a whole line from In the Generations line.
Last Stand was Records Generation. Well, that's what I'm saying, that after Transformers Prime is Transformers Records, I'm sure that's...
Are you allowed to...
but just got that, it's fine, I'm sure, yeah.
We'll take that on it. Well, gents, thank you so much. Thank you for Wreckers. Yeah. Thank you for coming to AA.
And thanks for you and Moonbase too for all the nice things. You guys have been especially supportive, and vainly we've enjoyed listening to the nice things you've been saying about us. So yeah, it was good. It's nice hearing our names mentioned.
Good. Keep making good comics.
Yeah.
So I think you know, obviously
Yes.
the guys at home and listening can't see there are other people in the room. A good round of applause for the Wrecking Crew.
Yeah.
And I say that'll do it.
Yeah.